There are two types of people in this world: those who bow their heads and accept whatever life throws at them, and those who grab life by the throat and bend it to their will, the peasants and the kings. And I'm about to show you exactly why you've been thinking like a peasant your entire life, and how one man's forbidden wisdom can transform you into the king you were born to be. If you clicked on this video, it means something inside you is screaming for change. You saw "think like a king" and felt that burning sensation in your chest, because deep down, you know you've been living beneath your potential. You've been playing small while others around you seem to effortlessly command respect, influence, and success. Well, congratulations. You've just taken the first step toward reclaiming your power. Because what I'm about to share with you isn't just another self-help philosophy. This is the raw, unfiltered psychology of power that shaped empires and toppled kingdoms. The Peasant Mindset Trap. Most people live their entire lives as mental slaves without even realizing it. Are you one of them? Let me paint you a picture that's going to make you uncomfortable. Right now, you're probably sitting there believing that if you just work hard enough, if you're just nice enough, if you follow all the rules perfectly, success will somehow find you. This is what I call the peasant mindset. And it's the biggest lie ever sold to the human race. Niccolò Machiavelli understood something that most people refuse to accept. The world doesn't reward the meek. It rewards the strategic. It rewards those who understand the game being played, while others stumble around blindfolded. When Machiavelli wrote The Prince in 1513, he wasn't writing a guidebook for tyrants. He was revealing the harsh psychological truths about how power actually works in the real world. Think about your own life for a moment. How many times have you watched someone less qualified, less moral, less deserving than you climb the ladder while you remained stuck? How many times have you wondered why the good guys seem to finish last? The answer isn't that the world is unfair. It's that you've been playing by peasant rules in a king's game. The peasant mindset operates on wishful thinking. It believes in cosmic justice, in the fantasy that virtue automatically leads to reward. But Machiavelli saw through this comfortable delusion. He observed that successful leaders, the true kings, operate on a completely different psychological framework. They don't wait for permission. They don't hope for fairness. They create their own reality through calculated action and strategic thinking. This isn't about becoming ruthless or abandoning your values. This is about understanding that every interaction you have is part of a complex game of power dynamics. And right now, you're losing because you don't even know you're playing. But here's where it gets interesting. And this might change everything you thought you knew about success. The king's psychology. What separates a king from a peasant isn't bloodline or money. It's a completely different way of processing reality. Machiavelli spent his life studying the psychology of rulers, and what he discovered will shatter your current worldview. Kings don't think in terms of right and wrong. They think in terms of effective and ineffective. They don't ask, "What should I do?" They ask, "What will produce the result I want?" This psychological shift is everything. When you think like a peasant, you're constantly seeking approval, avoiding conflict, trying to be liked by everyone. But when you think like a king, you realize that respect is infinitely more valuable than being liked. You understand that sometimes you must make unpopular decisions to achieve important outcomes. Let me give you a real-world example that's happening in your life right now. At your workplace, there's probably someone who gets promoted faster, who commands more respect, who seems to effortlessly navigate office politics. You might think they're just lucky or connected, but if you observe closely, you'll notice they operate on different principles entirely. They don't waste time complaining about unfairness. They adapt to the system as it exists. They don't seek everyone's approval. They focus on the approval of those who matter. They don't avoid difficult conversations. They master the art of strategic communication. This is Machiavellian thinking in action. The king's psychology is fundamentally about accepting reality as it is, not as you wish it were. Machiavelli called this effectual truth, the truth that produces results, not the truth that makes you feel comfortable. Most people live in a fantasy where they can succeed without ever having to make tough choices, without ever having to prioritize their goals over their immediate comfort. But here's the psychological breakthrough. Once you accept that the world operates on power dynamics, you stop being a victim of them and start becoming a master of them. You begin to see every situation through the lens of strategy rather than emotion. You start asking better questions. How can I position myself advantageously here? What leverage do I have? What outcome am I actually trying to achieve? This shift in thinking doesn't make you cold or calculating. It makes you effective. And effectiveness, as Machiavelli understood, is the foundation of all lasting success. But knowing this psychology is only the beginning. Now you need to understand the specific strategies that separate the rulers from the ruled. The strategic mind. Every day you make dozens of decisions that either move you toward power or away from it, and you probably don't even realize it. Machiavelli's greatest insight wasn't about politics. It was about the psychology of decision-making. He understood that most people make choices based on immediate emotional reactions rather than long-term strategic thinking. This is why they remain peasants while others become kings. Let's talk about how this plays out in your daily life. When someone criticizes you, what's your immediate reaction? If you're thinking like a peasant, you either defend yourself emotionally or internalize the criticism as truth. But if you're thinking like a king, you ask different questions. What is this person's motivation for saying this? How can I use this information to my advantage? Is there strategic value in how I respond? This is what Machiavelli called the long view, the ability to see beyond immediate circumstances to ultimate outcomes. Kings don't react. They respond with purpose. They don't get caught up in petty dramas. They focus on what actually moves them toward their goals. Consider your relationships. Are you giving your energy to people who drain you or to people who elevate you? Are you saying yes to opportunities that align with your strategic objectives? Or are you being pulled in every direction by other people's priorities? These aren't just lifestyle questions. They're power questions. Machiavelli observed that successful rulers were masters of resource allocation. They knew exactly where to invest their time, energy, and attention for maximum return. They understood that saying no to good opportunities was often necessary to say yes to great ones. This is strategic thinking at its core. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think strategic thinking means being manipulative or deceptive. Actually, it means being honest about what you want and intelligent about how you pursue it. It means understanding that every choice has consequences and making those choices consciously rather than reactively. The strategic mind operates on 3 levels simultaneously. What do I want to achieve? What resources do I have available? What obstacles need to be overcome? Most people only think about the first question, which is why they constantly feel frustrated and powerless. When you start thinking strategically, you begin to see opportunities where others see only problems. You start to understand that every challenge is also a chance to demonstrate your capability. Every conflict is a chance to clarify your position. Every setback is a chance to reassess and adjust your approach. But strategy without action is just fantasy. Now let me show you how to actually implement this power in the real world. The art of influence. Right now, someone is influencing your decisions, and you don't even know it. Isn't it time you learned to turn the tables? Machiavelli understood something that modern psychology has confirmed. People don't make decisions based on logic. They make decisions based on emotion, and then justify those decisions with logic afterward. This is the secret to real influence. And it's why some people seem to effortlessly get what they want, while others struggle to be heard. Think about the last time someone convinced you to do something you weren't initially excited about. They probably didn't win you over with facts and figures. They connected with something you cared about emotionally. They made you feel like the decision was your idea. This is Machiavellian influence in practice. The peasant approach to influence is to argue, to explain, to demand. You should do this because it's logical, or you should do this because I'm right. But the king's approach is to understand what the other person actually wants and show them how your proposal helps them get it. Let me give you a framework that will transform how you approach every important conversation. Before you try to influence anyone, ask yourself 3 questions. What does this person fear? What do they desire? What do they need to believe about themselves? Once you understand these psychological drivers, you can frame your requests in ways that naturally align with their existing motivations. This isn't manipulation. It's communication intelligence. You're not changing what you want. You're changing how you present what you want. You're speaking to their reality instead of insisting they adopt yours. Machiavelli also understood the power of timing. Kings don't just know what to say. They know when to say it. Sometimes the most powerful move is to remain silent and let others reveal their positions first. Sometimes it's to act decisively when everyone else is paralyzed by uncertainty. Watch how this plays out in your own life. The people who seem to get their way consistently aren't necessarily smarter or more talented than you. They're more attuned to the psychological undercurrents of their interactions. They pay attention to body language, tone of voice, what's not being said as much as what is. They also understand reciprocity. One of the most powerful psychological principles Machiavelli identified centuries before, modern behavioral science proved it. When you do something valuable for someone first, without being asked, you create a psychological debt that most people feel compelled to repay. This is influence through strategic generosity. But here's the crucial point. True influence isn't about getting people to do things they don't want to do. It's about helping them see how what you want aligns with what they want. It's about creating genuine win-win scenarios where everyone feels like they're getting value. And this brings us to, perhaps, the most important aspect of thinking like a king, understanding that real power doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from controlling yourself. Emotional mastery. Your emotions are either your greatest weapon or your greatest weakness. And most people have turned them into the latter. Here's where Machiavelli's psychology gets deeply personal. He observed that rulers who were slaves to their emotions were inevitably defeated by those who had mastered their emotional responses. The king's greatest battle isn't against external enemies. It's against the chaos of his own inner world. Right now, how many of your decisions are driven by fear? How often do you avoid taking action because you're worried about what others might think? How frequently do you sabotage your own progress because you're afraid of failure, rejection, or success itself? This is where the peasant mindset reveals itself most clearly, in the tyranny of uncontrolled emotions. But emotional mastery doesn't mean becoming emotionless. It means becoming emotionally intelligent. It means feeling your emotions fully, but not being controlled by them. It means using your emotions as information rather than letting them drive your behavior. Machiavelli wrote about the concept of virtù, not virtue in the moral sense, but strength of a character, the ability to adapt and respond appropriately to circumstances rather than being at their mercy. This is emotional mastery in its highest form. Think about the last time you were in a high-pressure situation. Did you react from a place of emotional clarity or emotional chaos? Did you say things you regretted later? Did you make decisions based on temporary feelings rather than permanent values? This is the difference between peasant-level emotional reactivity and king-level emotional mastery. The kings that Machiavelli studied had developed what we would now call emotional regulation. They could feel anger without acting in anger. They could feel fear without being paralyzed by fear. They could feel desire without being blinded by desire. This gave them a massive strategic advantage because they could think clearly when everyone around them was losing their minds. Here's a practical exercise that will begin transforming your emotional responses immediately. The next time you feel a strong negative emotion, instead of immediately reacting, pause and ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to tell me? What action would serve my long-term interests here, rather than just making me feel better in the moment? This pause, this gap between stimulus and response, is where your power lives. Peasants react instantly and regret later. Kings respond deliberately and rarely have regrets, because their responses are aligned with their strategic objectives. Emotional mastery also means understanding that other people's emotions are information you can use strategically. When someone is angry, they're revealing what they care about. When someone is afraid, they're showing you their vulnerabilities. When someone is excited, they're demonstrating their values. Kings pay attention to these emotional signals because they provide crucial intelligence about how to navigate relationships effectively. But even with emotional mastery and strategic thinking, there's one final element that separates those who merely survive from those who truly thrive: the power of calculated risks. Every day, you don't take the right risks. You're taking the biggest risk of all, the risk of mediocrity. Machiavelli understood that fortune favors the bold, but he also understood that there's a vast difference between boldness and recklessness. The kings who lasted weren't those who took the biggest risks. They were those who took the most intelligent risks. Look at your life right now. What opportunities are you avoiding because they feel too risky? What dreams have you postponed because you're waiting for the perfect moment? What changes have you been putting off because you're comfortable with the familiar, even if the familiar isn't serving you? This is where the peasant mindset becomes most limiting. Peasants see risk as something to be avoided at all costs. But kings understand that the biggest risk is not taking strategic risks. They understand that safety is often an illusion, that the secure path can lead to slow decline just as surely as reckless behavior can lead to rapid destruction. Machiavelli's concept of occasione, seizing the moment when conditions are favorable, is crucial here. Kings develop the psychological capacity to recognize when circumstances align in their favor and the courage to act decisively in those moments. They understand that opportunities have expiration dates and that hesitation often costs more than bold action. But calculated risk-taking requires something most people haven't developed: the ability to accurately assess probabilities and potential outcomes. This means getting comfortable with uncertainty while still making intelligent decisions, despite incomplete information. Here's how this applies to your current situation. What's one area of your life where playing it safe is actually holding you back? What's one strategic risk you could take in the next 30 days that could significantly improve your circumstances? What's the real cost of staying exactly where you are for the next 5 years? Kings also understand that risk tolerance is a muscle that can be developed. You don't start by betting everything on one massive gamble. You start by taking small, intelligent risks and building your confidence through accumulated small wins. Each successful risk teaches you something about your own capabilities and about how the world actually responds to bold action. The psychological transformation that happens when you start taking calculated risks is profound. You begin to see yourself as someone who shapes circumstances rather than someone who is shaped by circumstances. You develop what psychologists call an internal locus of control, the belief that your actions significantly influence your outcomes. This shift in self-perception changes everything. Instead of hoping for things to get better, you start making them better. Instead of waiting for permission, you start giving yourself permission. Instead of complaining about problems, you start solving them. And this brings us to the ultimate question. Are you ready to stop thinking like a peasant and start living like a king? Your new transformation. So here we are, at the end of this journey through Machiavellian psychology. But really, this isn't an ending. It's a beginning. Because everything I've shared with you means absolutely nothing unless you take action on it. You now understand the peasant mindset that's been holding you back. You know the psychological differences between those who rule their circumstances and those who are ruled by them. You've learned about strategic thinking, emotional mastery, influence, and calculated risk-taking. You have all the tools you need to start thinking like a king. But here's the truth Machiavelli would want me to tell you. Knowledge without application is worthless. The princes who studied his work but failed to implement it were overthrown just as quickly as those who never read it at all. The difference between you watching this video and you transforming your life comes down to one thing: your willingness to start acting on these principles immediately. So I'm going to challenge you right now. Pick one area of your life where you've been thinking like a peasant. Maybe it's your career, where you've been waiting for recognition instead of strategically positioning yourself for advancement. Maybe it's your relationships, where you've been accepting less than you deserve instead of commanding the respect you're worth. Maybe it's your personal goals, where you've been making excuses instead of making progress. Choose one area and commit to applying just one principle from this video over the next week. Start thinking strategically about your decisions. Begin mastering your emotional responses. Practice intelligent influence in your conversations. Take one calculated risk that could improve your circumstances. The transformation from peasant mindset to king mindset doesn't happen overnight, but it can begin in an instant. The instant you decide that you're tired of living beneath your potential and ready to claim the power that's been waiting for you all along. If this video resonated with you, if it made you uncomfortable in the right way, if it awakened something inside you that's been sleeping too long, then hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Because I'm going to continue sharing the psychological insights that can transform not just how you think, but how you live. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment telling me which principle you're going to implement first. And remember, the world is full of peasants hoping for change and kings creating it. The only question left is, which one will you choose to be? Remember, fortune favors the bold, but wisdom guides the hand that seizes it.